Hi there, VC. Steve Whitty here. Yes, Kate, a long time no see again. Apologies for that. A little bit's been happening in my life. I've been come back from my holidays. I went to spent some time in Turkey, a place called Gumbit, which is just outside of Bodrum. Had a great time, 2 weeks doing very little. Managed to get in a day trip to the island of Kos, one of the Greek islands. So yeah, all is good. But enough about me doing talking about my holidays. Yeah, I'm going to sort of catch up a little bit on finds I had pre-holiday, and then I plan to do another video to my post-holiday finds. So I went on holiday the first 2 weeks of October. So these are sort of like stuff from September I'm showing. Yes, I know we're in November, but I thought it'd be nice to just have a little bit of catch up. And before I do anything else, I want to acknowledge the fact I'd received some VCLT from Headley, another fat bearded man talking about records. Very kindly sent me a couple of albums. He did send them in about July, and for some reason I forgot to pick up the fact that I wasn't in the car that the postman leaves to pick them up, and I just managed to pick them up just before they sent them back to Headley. So apologies for that. I'll be a bit more keep my eyes open for what comes through my letterbox. Anyhow, first record he sent me is an album called Fool's Gold by a band called Fool's Gold. This is the debut album. They released 4 albums between 2009 and 2015. This is very much in a style of folk, country, world music and rock. This is sort of, I think Headley thought that, because I've been talking about listening to a lot of world music recently, this would appeal to me, and he was right. I actually did enjoy listening to this. I've listened to it a couple of times, and it's if I can seek the other 3 albums, it would be not nice to be able to see what they're about as well. So thank you, Headley, for that. And the second album he sent me, compilation called Horn Rock and Funky Guitar Grooves, 1968 to 1974. This came out in 2019 on Ace Records. It is what it is. It's basically a load of stuff. If I said this stuff on here by Blood, Sweat and Tears, Tower of Power, Donny Brooks, Delaney and Bonnie, Al Cooper, Paul Butterfield Blues Band, yeah, it's sort of thing that was around at that time. Again, mightily enjoyable. Ticks my boxes. So Headley, thank you for that, and apologies for not acknowledging this earlier. Moving on to the records that my finds. First record I'm going to show you is Small Faces, Small Faces, from 1967. In fact, looking at this, it belonged to Anne O'Neill, and it was a Christmas present from 1967. These sort of things are nice. This is self-produced. This was produced by Steve Marriott and Ronnie Lane, and this was the first their second studio album, the first after leaving to join the Immediate record company, and being managed by Andrew Lugo Oldham. They'd been previously managed by Don Arden and been signed to Decca. The actual recording sessions for the album started while they were still on the Decca contract, and when they signed over, Don Arden and Decca decided to take some of the outtakes and release it as an album called From the Beginning. On the album itself, it's sort of standard R&B, what they were good at. Marriott is in fine voice. I was just say Green Circles, I know off here. Yeah, things are going to get better. Up the Wooden Hills to Bedfordshire, these sort of tracks, but this is really good. Good album, well worth seeking out. Now, talking of which, of Immediate Records, found this in the cheap bins, £2 bins. This is the Collector Series Immediate Singles Collection. So you're talking about acts that were on the Immediate at that time. Rod Stewart was there. There's a couple of tracks from him. Nico's on there. The track that piqued my interest was Earl Vince and the Valiants, and the track Someone's Going to Get Their Head Kicked In Tonight. Now, that is Fleetwood Mac. it's Jeremy Spencer that provides the vocals. He used to do the early shows, sort of like pastiche of rock and roll. You've got Fleetwood Mac, Man of the World, Chris Farlow at the time, a couple of tracks from him. Twice as Much, Sitting on a Fence, John Mayall. Small Faces are on there, the McCoys, Hang On Sloopy, Humble Pie, Natural Born Boogie. A couple of P.P. Arnold tracks, The Nice, and finish up with Amen Corner. Pretty much a staple of what was going on with Immediate that time. Again, I'm pleased to find that. A band that I've really got into over the last few years has been the Lemon Twigs, and I managed to pick up a copy of the debut album Do Hollywood, and this sort of intimates what they were the style they were going in. Very pop harmonies. I know it's only brothers can. Very much self-contained. I was reading an article, I think it might have been Record Collector, where Tony Visconti expressed an interest in producing these, and he basically was told this is more a bit of all done within the family. Yeah, I just love this. I hope I can get round to seeing them. Hopefully they might do some shows. It'd be nice if they could play Bearded Theory, which I'm going to next year again. Yeah, I just really like this. This is really good. I'm happy now to complete all the albums. Silicon Teens, Music for Parties. Now, this came out in 1979, I think, or 1980. And it was basically the creation of Daniel Miller, the boss of Mute Records, and Frank Tovey, better known as Fad Gadget. And it was a made-up group. It did synthesized versions of old rock and roll hits. So the names of the band were Daryl, Jackie, Paul and Diane, but they'd never existed. There was photos, publicity photos done, but they never actually appeared. It was just Daniel Miller and Frank Tovey. But the sort of tracks, their debut single was a cover of Chuck Berry's Memphis, Tennessee. And then I think they did Judy in Disguise and Glasses. That was another hit single. And then I think the final single they did was a cover of Hines' Just Like Eddie. But the sort of tracks they did was Yesterday Man, Do What Diddy Diddy, Really Got Me, Do You Love Me, Let's Dance, Oh Boy, Red River Rock, you know, Sweet Little 16. So you get the idea. It was just little, and it was just like little basic synth versions of those, which usually featured Daniel Miller, I think, on vocals. But it left an impression on me at the time. It was about, say, 40 years ago. And when I found a copy of this, I've just thought I just got to have that. Moving on, change of style. Aswad's debut album, Aswad, released in 1976. Quite an important, and probably pretty important British roots reggae album. This is when there were 5 in the band. Yeah, it's really, really good. I enjoyed this a lot. Rebis Soul, Can't Stand the Pressure, Ethiopian Rhapsody, sorry. Natural Progression, Back to Africa, Red Up, Ear Woman, Concrete, Slave Ship. I knew about Chaka B, Brinsley Ford, because he was in the kids TV show in the early 70s, Here Comes the Double Deckers, and was a child actor. I just think this is just an absolutely wonderful album. I always thought best British reggae albums were Steel Pulse, Hands of Revolution and Signing Off by UB40, but this isn't far off there. What Aswad were good at were they brought in other R&B and soul influences into their reggae, and in the 80s they had a #1 single actually with Don't Turn Around, where it was a bit more lovers rock poppy style reggae. But yeah, this really is really good. I'm happy to have that as well. The Sweet, funny, how sweet Coco can be. So this is their debut album. from 1971. And this really harks to their bubblegum period. So the tracks on here, you've got Coco, which was the single where it comes in the title. Funny Funny also in the title. They do a version of, I think, New World's hit Tom Tom Turn Around. Chop Chop was another single. This was in the period where the band didn't play on their A sides. They might have played on the B sides, but they were not. They were deemed not good enough musically to be able to play on their singles. The band at this time, it's quite a young group. They're only about 2021 when this came out, so you know, quite easily be manipulated. Obviously, they went on to bigger and better things, developed more of a rock sound. But it's just nice to have that as part of the suite, because that era of the suite is just important to me as probably say the more glam era. Now, this sort of piqued my interest when I saw it, and this is a comp, and it's called Love, Peace and Poetry, African Psychedelic Music. This came out on the normal label, and I'm trying to think when it came out. 2004. And this was one of a series of albums that features pop music from around the world. I think I know of a Chilean one. A lot of these, it is what it is. It's very much stuff that came from the UK and drifted down to Africa, particularly South Africa. You got bands like the Circus and the Track McCulley's, Workshop Inc. Yeah, it is what it is. You got the majority of the tracks are South African. You've got some Nigerian, some Zambian music as well. But yes, it's mainly South African pop music. But it's really, I actually really enjoyed this. I'm going to see if I can see some of the others in the series as well. Broadcast were a band from Birmingham. Came and sort of developed their own style, very electronic, avant-garde style of music. They were just the two members. I get my notes here. Yeah, there were members of Trish Kiernan, who was vocals, keyboards, and guitar, and James Cargill on bass. This is their first studio album, The Noise Made by People. This came out in, I believe, 2000. This is a reissue. Very much a cult band. Didn't, I wouldn't have said achieve much commercial success, but they were well thought of, well liked. As I said, this is the debut, and this is the third album, Tender Buttons, and this is probably the nearest they got to any sort of commercial success. I think one of the singles on here ended up hitting the top 200 in the UK singles chart. As I say, very much a cult band. Those that knew them liked them. Sadly, no more. Unfortunately, Trish Kiernan passed away in 2011 for complicated pneumonia, which was sort of complications of pneumonia. It was all very sudden, and that sort of brought the band to a grinding halt. So pleased to find these. But as I say, both are reissues, because the originals are a bit expensive. But well worth seeking out. If you like something a little bit different, this is a band that I think you should check out. Now, changing tact, and I think you could almost say it's 180 degree from sort of avant-garde electronic music to REO Speedwagon. And this is the album REO, sometimes known as the Cow album, because you probably see the branding on sort of like cowskin. This is the sixth album, released in 1976. it saw the return of Kevin Cronin back to the band after 4 years, and it would be the last album to feature the Greg Philbin on bass. Yeah, they still keep going along. This is all right. This is it's standard American rock of the 70s, which I've got a soft spot for. So yeah, I was happy to have this. Got a few of their albums, particularly the 70s, and go away from like the commercial stuff, real commercial stuff. This is quite an interesting listen. So yeah, happy with that. A band I've been picking up the reissues of over the last couple of years have been Supergrass, and no exception for their 4th album. This is Life on Other Planets, come out in 2002. Thank you for the hype sticker to remind me. Tracks, best known tracks on here: Grace, Can't Get Up. Yeah, really sort of carried on where they were left off. This is the first album that featured Rob Coombs, Gaz's brother, as full-time member. He'd played keyboard on the records, but it was up to this point it was just a trio, and Rob became a full-time member at that point. And yeah, and really sort of carried on. I've got a really soft spot for Supertramp. I know some people think this is their best album of the lot. I've always thought the 3rd album, Supergrass, was their best album, but I think this runs it a close second. And yeah, really happy to get this. So hopefully the last 2 albums will be coming out next couple of years as reissues. There is a deluxe box set version as well that came in, but I just want to have the basic album. So album that was pleased to pick up, I've seen it a lot, never pulled the trigger on it, was Fun Boy 3's debut album. Fun Boy 3, released in 1982. Obviously they left, the guys Terry Orr, Neville Staples and Linville Golding had left the Specials, and in a way this is so totally different from the Specials. And I think even with the image, with the haircuts and everything, was to try and move away from the Specials. I think the first single, The Lunatics Taking Over the Asylum, was sort of like a more downbeat sound. Then they had The Telephone Always Rings, and then obviously the inspired choice of releasing a song with Bananarama, It Ain't What You Do, It's the Way That You Do It, which was a big hit single, and then Bananarama replicated the offer when they really saying something featuring the Fun Boy 3. So yeah, it's a good album. I mean, maybe the urgency, since Terry Orr passed away, there was the urgency to pick it up before you know how these things get too expensive when somebody passes away. So yeah, an album that's fills a gap in my collection. Next, a bit of Dylan and Oh Mercy. Some would say this might be his best album of the 80s. Certainly was a return to form. The 80s weren't too particularly kind to Dylan, like a lot of acts. But this suddenly came out and suddenly was quite well received. Produced by Daniel Lanois. Yeah, but it really is good. I was really happy to pick this up. It made me wanted to see if I can get some more of the later Dylan as well. You know, sometimes I've been focusing too much. Maybe what I read about previously about the 80s Dylan sort of put me off a little bit, but now I'm pretty pleased to have this. It's a really good album. Yeah, I'm really pleased to have that. I know there's a few people out there that love it as well. Another act I've got a soft spot for is the sensational Alex Harvey Band. This is the Penthouse tapes, and this is the 5th studio album from 1976. and this is mainly a cover version of the album, before they became sort of really fashionable. So you've got they do a cover version of Runaway, do a version of Jethro Tull's Love Story, I think. School's Out, Goodnight Irene, The Osmonds' Crazy Horses, and Cheek to Cheek from Irving Berlin. I mean, obviously, next is a cover version of Jack Brow's song on the next album. Yeah, it's really good. Alex Harvey was always entertaining. Yeah, got the image there. Yeah, really, I think really enjoyable. And I think pretty much might draw this chapter of the band to a close, because they did start to sort of disintegrate. I think the money ran out a little bit. Yeah, it's good. Happy with that. Procol Harum, Grand Hotel, the 6th album from 1973. Quite a strange album. You got the band on there, and I obviously can tell Gary Booker. But to be honest, I'm struggling to know anybody else, and it's partly because on the album, it was Dave Ball that played guitar. Well, Dave Ball plays some guitar on here, the guitarist. They take the photo of the album, he leaves, and they've get a guy called Mick Grabham. And Mick Grabham, what they've done, they put Mick Grabham's head, superimposed his head on Dave Ball's body. Now, I wonder if on the inside they've got anything that's would be nice. Comes with a nice booklet. No. So I couldn't tell you whose it is. And to be honest, they've done such a good job of it, I probably wouldn't know who it was if you could see the join. So yeah, I've got a soft spot for Procol Harum. I've got a couple of their albums. I've got some of the later stuff as well. Yeah, I'm partial to a little bit of prog. This marks a bit of a change of direction, anyhow, for the band. The actual album itself. I think it's a track, Souvenir of London. It got banned by the BBC because it referenced venereal disease or one, you know. So yeah, different times. Next up, Robert Fripp, his debut solo album, Exposure. This is from 1979. After he splits King Crimson up, he enrolled at college, I think to do with music, and he ended up living in New York during the period of the punk new wave thing. But he'd also been kept busy, done sessions, Daryl Hall, Peter Gabriel, and of course David Bowie spring to mind. And these greatly influenced this album. This is not a bad album at all. Don't expect any King Crimson type music, 70s Crimson music, but for what it is, sort of edgy guitar, it's really, I think, really good. And I think this sort of leads on, and he suddenly got he put together what ended up being reformed King Crimson. This sort of influenced the music from that. So yeah, really good. I enjoyed that one as well. An upgrade. This is Funkadelic's Maggot Brain. From the third studio album from 1971. The reason I've upgraded this, my copy, which I picked up at a charity shop, had a dirty great scratch all on the on one that won the size. It was sort of sport my enjoyment, so I was pretty pleased to pick this up. Great album. The actual track Maggot Brains, wonderful guitar on that. What I would say is, I think this was the last album that featured the original lineup. I think the band started to sort of fragment, people left, and couldn't tell you who left at that point, but nah, this is just wonderful. I picked up recently a best of comp as well, Funkadelic, but this is just wonderful. Back to on the prog. This is Gentle Giant, Acquiring the Taste. Originally came out in 1971. This is a edition that was put on released on Tapestry Records. It does say limited edition, 500 copies, and it is on Discog, so it's not a bootleg or anything like that. So it must have been an official sort of release on license, which is good, because if I'd have tried to get an original, it would have cost me an arm and a leg, especially on Vertigo. So yeah, more than happy to have this. Again, prog, Gentle Giant, just filling up some holes in there. And yes, it is apparently the sleeve is somebody licking somebody's backside. It is tasteful, but this album, because it's the second album, moved away more to the more proggier end. For those that don't know, Gentle Giant morphed from a band called Simon Dupree and the Big Sound, who were effectively an R&B soul act, though they did have a big hit in the late 60s with a song called Kites, which was very psychedelic. But that did not represent them at all, sound-wise. They were very much a band that really put some great soul reviews shows, and in a sense they sort of then twigged on what was going on, moved to the more progressive sound, and this sort of starts to cement that progressive sound over the debut. A really good album. Johnny Winter. This album's called Johnny Winter, and it's the 4th studio album. The and is, you got there Johnny Winter obviously, but you got Rick Derringer, Randy Hobbs and Randy Zed, who are all members of the McCoys, and hence where the title Johnny Winter and this was produced by Johnny Winter and Rick Derringer, and Johnny Winter was actually was seriously considering at that time calling the band Johnny Winter, and it's sort of like typical rock there, but it's got rock and roll hoochie coo, which is Rick Derringer's big song. But yeah, it's sort of like staple American rock of that blues rock of that period. Yeah, it's all right. Yeah, it only cost me a couple of quid, so it stays. Next up, an album which I didn't think I'd ever see, but it's Ambrose Slade Beginnings debut album. This is all part of the big reissue I've done on Slade over the past few years, and it's on splattered vinyl. I won't get it out, and it's their debut album. It's very hard to find in originals, really expensive. In America, it was known as Ballsy, which they're easy to come by, and I think it got reissued over there not so long back. And the Record Collector did a reissue a few years ago, and they're fetching 3 figures as well. So to see this, I thought, well, this was going to complete the gap in my Slade collection. At this point, Slade very much pop rock band. This is pre-Skinhead days, and there's some originals, but there's some covers, some really good covers on here. They do Born to Be Wild, which is part of their live act. It's on, I think, yeah, it's staple of the live act. They do a lovely version of Martha My Dear, which on stage it would just be Noddy and Jim Lee, his viola there. Do Journey to the Centre of Your Mind as well. Yeah, really, it's good. It's an album of that time. it's sort of like the pop psych. I was reading something. There's a new book on Slate that's just come out. I was watching the Word in Your Attic video, YouTube video, where they got the author on, and they were talking about when they become skinheads. I think it was just like Keith Orphan and Chaz Chandler was the manager, says, well, maybe they should tap into the skinhead mode. The album hadn't sold. And next thing you know, next morning, Chaz Chandler went round, and Keith Orphan says, oh, crikey, what have I done here? And he come round, it was too late, they'd already cropped their hair. The actual photo, the cover, is taken, I think it's Polk Hill, which is just that, it's around Walsall area where Noddy Older comes from. Noddy hasn't been very well recently. Well, news came out he'd had cancer a few years ago, which was quite serious. So, you know, reminder, because it's Christmas coming up and it's 50th anniversary of Merry Christmas, everybody. That's Slater for life, not just for Christmas. Something a bit more up to date. Well, up to date for me. Everything But the Girl, Amplified Heart, the 25th anniversary edition. Wonderful. I do like Everything But the Girl. I didn't at the time. I didn't appreciate them at the time. It's only when reading Tracy Thorn's book that I sort of twigged. Oh, yeah, this might be worth checking out. Obviously, the big track on here is the original version of Missing. I think it's the Todd Terry mix that became the big hit single worldwide, big in America as well. Yeah, so wonderful song. Troubled Mind as well. I love that. 25th of December. It's just a wonderful album, and I got round to actually listening to Fused a few days ago, and I noticed how much deeper Tracy Thorn's voice had become. Maybe that's age, but yeah, this is wonderful. I really enjoy this album. A couple of albums, I've got to get Fused, and I think I've got to get, there's another album around that period as well that I've got to get hold of, but do love Everything But the Girl. It's well worth seeking out, and it's a wonderful pressing. It's a wonderful sound on this record. Almost there. Bill Nelson's Northern Dream. Now this is, I think, a 1980 reissue of Bill Nelson's debut album, which was sort of like released on some sort of local label. Now, Bill Nelson's one of my favourite guitarists. This is wonderful. This is a great album. When he released it, he sent a copy to John Peel, and with a letter saying, hope you like it. It's my first record. Hope you like it. And Peel wrote back and said, well, listen to my show on such a date, and I'll play some of the album. Well, he did more than that. He played the whole album. He played side A, and he then flipped over to side B. Because John Peel used to do that sort of thing in those days, and he could get away with it. This sort of like predates Bebop Deluxe, and I never thought I'd get one. Peter the shop gave me this copy. There's a little mark on it, but it doesn't affect the playing on it. But absolutely, I'm so chuffed to have this album. Yeah, just to sort of like add a bit more to me Bill Nelson. Now, the final record I'm going to show in this video is Quatermass, the only album, the self-titled debut. Well, that's the album, Quatermass. They only did the one album. This is an Italian reissue from 2002. Originals of this album go for £100, and I know because I sold one in the shop for Pete while he was on away. This is 3 sides of the album, or make up the album, and side 4's bonus tracks. Best known track is Black Sheep of the Family. What I liked about this album, is this is joys of buying second-hand records. Whether it's somebody's written their name on the back, I've never had a problem with that. But obviously, when they brought this, when they came out, oh, I've got to get it out. There we go. I did some publicity, and the person who originally had it cut out the article in Record Collector. Now I don't know when this came out. This is the band themselves in the it's John Gustafson, Pete Robinson, and Mick Underwood. John Gustafson, you'll know, might know for the Big Three, but he also played with Roxy Music, and his bass lines on "Love Is a Drug." Lauded in Germany as it was, but did nothing, and it was like one and done, and just literally then split up. But yeah, this is the reissue. This is the article. I mean, it's got to be 2000 whatever, because John Gustafson passed away in 2014. I think the other two, well, Mick Underwood's still alive. Mick Underwood played with Gillan in the 80s. You know, when you bring someone out, you think it's a good idea at the time. And he also played, prior to Quatermass, a band called Episode 6, and he also played earlier with a band with Richie Blackmore, and Richie Blackmore came chatting to him, explaining the situation with Deep Purple. They were going to get rid of the bass player and the vocalist, and Mick Underwood says, well, we'll have a look at ours, and it turned out to be that's Ian Gill and Roger Glover. Going back to the album, very proggy, very much like The Nice. That's how I would describe them as, obviously with a better vocalist. This is getting a reissue next year on Music on Vinyl. I think it's on a clear vinyl, I think early next year. So if you're interested, I'd stream it or listen to it on YouTube. If you're interested, I'd recommend you go and get that that reissue. Really good album. So there you go, BC. Those were my pre-holiday finds. I got a feeling this is going to be a very long video, so if you stayed with me to the end, thank you. If not, you can always watch it in bits and bobs. I do sometimes with long YouTube videos. Anyhow, hope everyone is well, and you know, thumbs up, thumbs down. Just put some comments in. Feel free. I'll try my best to always get back to people, but enjoy it itself. Until the next video, which will be probably next week when I do the post holiday finds. Take care of yourselves. Keep spinning. More importantly, keep on smiling.